opportunity to visit with three women who pioneered a revolution in language from which the world has never recovered and never should. Only insanity would provoke a person to attempt an introduction of Mary Evans and Nikki Giovanni and Lucile Clifton, because these are persons known throughout the globe as bold and fearless speakers for human feeling and human intelligence and human action in our humanly troubled world. Only a person comatose for 30-odd years would not know that these three poets, essayists, writers of children's books, playwrights, editors, activists, remain leading voices in a generational battle against what the poet Chuck D calls dumb assification and anti-intellection, meaning anti-intellectualism. That generational battle and all those who struggle to deliver us from the chains of dumb assification is what the Department of English at Howard University celebrates as Hearts Day. Hearts Day is a day of emphasis on the tough love that births and nourishes what Lucile Clifton calls generations, what Mari Evans calls the young, black, and beautiful, in pursuit of ancient freedom dreams. What Nikki Giovanni calls a for real black thing called revolution, known to revolutionists as love. For 40 years, a revolutionist named Sterling Allen Brown taught at this university. He wrote a poem called Strong Men. The lines read, strong men keep a coming on. Strong men getting stronger. He was, of course, not excluding women. Lucile Clifton was his in-the-class student. Mari Evans and Nikki Giovanni have acknowledged him as father, forebear of contemporary African-American poetry. Strong men keep a coming on. Sterling Brown was talking about generations. He was always talking about generations. He wrote a poem whose hero and speaker is an old farmer in winter dreaming about planting his spring garden. He dreams butter beans for clap, sugar cane for grace, and for the little fella, running space. Sterling Brown created running space for little fellas like Lucile Clifton, A.B. Spellman, Leroy Jones to become a Midi Baraka, Toni Morrison, here in the English department for 40 years. Here he also pioneered the study of African American literature in the academy, worldwide. It started here, and at Morgan State University, and at Atlanta University, and now you can hardly find enough faculty to supply its demand. Poet, scholar, anthologist, editor, activist Sterling Brown fathered a generation of writers embraced by a generational name called the Black Arts Movement. And that movement represented today by our honorees, Lucile Clifton, Mari Evans, and Nikki Giovanni, and their colleagues, who will come tonight to pay tribute to them. Shh, I'm not telling. These are acknowledged parents of the present hip-hop generation of revolutionary poets against dumb assification, represented on the faculty of the Department of English by poet Tony Medina, a leading voice of that generation, and he is in turn nurturing the coming generation of revolutionary poets right here. All of this is the reason why we named this day in our lives Hearts Day, because on this day we celebrate our life's blood, the blood of intelligence, courage, and beautiful generational birthing that ran through the veins of our forebears and continues to be transmitted to us, empowering us to fight the battle against dumbassification. Say it, please. Against dumbassification and anti-intellectualism, which is our mission. In 1969, when Black Feeling, Black Talk, Black Judgment by Nikki Giovanni appeared, a revolution in writing occurred. It shook a world and began to construct another world where, as she has said it, Martin Luther King could have lived and preached nonviolence. In 1969, when I Am a Black Woman by Mary Evans appeared, everybody in America and over the world rose up talking about, I'm one too, including me. And others raised the signifying question, what's so special about y'all? But did they get it? A revolution in writing occurred. A whole canon exists in answer to that question. In 1969, when Good Times appeared, all of a sudden, I and you became the subjects of heroic couplets and epic similes and not case histories. I mention particularly these books, the first publications of our authors, because they are now rare books and you can't get them. But you must get them because you must give them to your children. The poets themselves will tell you how they can get them. But one thing you can't do is what someone did to Mary Evans. They went to the library and pilfered. That means stole. I Am a Black Woman, because good man, and brought it to the author and asked her to sign it. And she said, I can't sign it. Born where? Have to be smart to know that. When that poem came out, I didn't even know I was born in the Congo, but I learned fast. And I was going around. You ain't got to read that.
Let me just do a linear thing. Rap is old. And the first rap that I'm aware of is a rap on the Titanic, and it's called Shine. And that's because there were no black people on the Titanic. You know that you saw the movie, you read about there were no black people. This was a ship built in England. There were no white people working on it. But this is the ship. I didn't make this up. This is the ship that was supposed to be unsinkable. So, you know, that's just like in the face of God. Like, I built this white ship with this white people, it's unsinkable. God said, no, actually it's not. So, because it's going to sink on its maiden voyage. But, of course, what black people did, because I think the two disasters that most, the black community as a whole most enjoyed was the sinking of the Titanic and that's probably a good word, but it was the sinking of the Titanic and the Hindenburg disaster. Because those were so white. And of course we made up with it. But what the black community did, because we're always signifying. So a rap got made up. Now rap is as old as the dozens of us, but they made up a rap. And they had a boy in the boiler room, right? And a pejorative term for black people is shine, right? And because of our skin, and so they used to call him shine. And it's like up there with nigger, you know, just a bad term. And so when the Titanic starts to sink, the white people see that Shine is going to get out. He is going, because black people survive everything. So they call out to him, we have survived. I mean, it's true, you know. If you wanted a partner in a disaster, you would want a black person, because if there's a way out, they will find it. That's reality. So the rap says, and I, of course, cannot recite it because some of you are too young, but I'll recite the good part of it. You have the white guy standing there and he says, shine, shine, save poor me and I'll give you more money than you can see. And Shine said, there's money on land and there's money on sea, but the money on land is the money for me, and Shine swam on. And then you're going to have the white woman is going to offer him salacious things, and then you're going to have, so it goes on. It's an old rap. Well, I can't say it in front of these kids, but somebody knows Shine. And so I grew up that the men would always be reciting things like Shine. They had a whole bunch of raps and stuff, but the women only had things like little Sally Walker sat in the saucer, rise, Sally, rise, wipe your weeping eyes. I never did figure out why the bitch is weeping. Turn to the east, turn to the west, turn to the very one that you love the best. And so I kind of resented that. The girls were always, you know, playing spin the bottle, and the boys were always doing something else. And I have a son, he's 37 years old now, but I remember watching Thomas and a friend of his named Connie, and I would watch them, Contessa. I would watch them play, and she would come back and say, we need something to drink. We need pretzels or whatever it is they wanted. And I would say, well, Contessa, why are you asking me for that? She said, we're playing airplane. And I said, and she said, well, Tommy's the pilot, and I'm the stewardess. I said, well, how come you're not the pilot? She said, oh, it would upset him. And I thought, no, you need to get, you know, something a little more going on here. So I wanted to think of something for little girls. The strength of this poem to me is that, in fact, it has worked for everybody. But when you think about America, and this has been a long explanation because it's probably the only poem I'm going to get in today, but when you think about how illogical it is, when you think about the enslavement of the African American, and we must, I mean, I've been doing a lot of work in slavery, we just have to rethink all of this. But nothing was as crazy in the enslavement of the African as bringing the African woman. When we study the slavery of the Greeks. The Romans enslaved the Greeks, but they left the women. Because anytime you bring a woman, you are bringing the seeds of your destruction. So when because anything I have is going to be a black child. I don't care who puts it there. And no, people get upset about that, but that's true. If I'm a black woman, I'm going to have a black child, and therefore, I'm going to train this child to, if not kill you, certainly subvert it, right? That's reality. So I was trying to think when they started this country, and they're smart men, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, and them, they were smart guys. And so they got together down in Philadelphia, you know, went down to Monticello, had a dinner with Tom, and they said, okay, we need to start a country because these people are, you know, making us pay taxes, and we need to start our own nation. Everybody said, that's a good idea. Said, Tom, you're a good writer, you know, what do you think we need? You're a good thinker. Tom said, well, I think we need the black woman. And of course, well, he already had done, you know, equality and liberty and pursuit of happiness, so they were trying to figure out what they actually need. And of course, you know, it had to be like John Adams and them. Adams is like, you know, I'm not sure we need any black women because some of us, as he said, and I quote him, some of us have black mistresses and we need to get rid of them. So we know that it was Ben Franklin who responded to that, and I quote Mr. Franklin, I didn't make that one up. Franklin said, well, if we have to get rid of our mistresses or get rid of the country, we're going to get rid of the country. We're going to keep our black mistresses. And of course, Tom Jefferson agreed. Well, you know that's true. What do you think Sally Hemings is doing? And so they said to Tom Jefferson, you know, you write, why don't you write the black woman and ask her? You know, just ask her if she'll come and join us. So, you know, Jefferson sat down, dear black woman, we are starting a new nation. Please join us, your friends, the founding fathers. And folded it up, see what I'm saying? Got himself a homing pigeon, tied it on there, put it in the air, and of course it went over to West Africa. And as we know, you know, the women run the marketplace in West Africa, so you can see the pigeon is tired and it's fluttering into the marketplace, and women are looking up, you know, and say, girl, what's that? Say, I don't know, look like a dove to me. And so the pigeon comes down, and they take it and they open it up, and she reads it. She said, it's somebody called the founding fathers. Want to know, do y'all want to go to America? Y'all want to go to America? And all the women said, no. So they wrote back, dear founding fathers, no. Your friend, the black woman. But you know that they didn't take no for an answer, and they came and got us because they knew they couldn't have a nation, they knew they could not have a civilization without the involvement of the black woman. And they were right about that. So I wanted to write a poem to tell black women who we are, because sometimes we tend to forget. It's called Ego Tripping. There may be a reason why. I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light. I am bad. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert. With a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes, I crossed it in 2 hours. I'm a gazelle. So swift, you can't catch me. For a birthday present when he was 3, I gave my son, Hannibal, an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah built Newark, and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intoned my loving name. All praises, all praises. I am the one who would save. I sowed diamonds in my backyard. My bowels deliver uranium. The filings from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew my nose, giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned and gold was laid across 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal. I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky.
Love it. Your signature poem, which is what I am a black woman, which you would say, but I just, in 1969, you wrote those words. I just thought that, I just love it.
Who can be born black? You and who can
Yeah,
be?
yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is not the whole poem. This is the early version. This is the early version. Robert Hayden, and I hope you know his name, and I used to disagree with, Robert Hayden, one of the finest craftspeople we've ever had in the Black Arts Movement. But we used to disagree about whether or not you could alter a work after it had been published. Bob said no, and I said, yeah, you can always alter it. And so this was my version, my initial version. For those of you who write, I would remind you that your initial version is just your idea. You know, it isn't really necessarily what you want. Revision. Yes, it's your idea. And after you do that original version, you should be open to, is this really, am I saying what I'm thinking? I mean, am I getting it all down here, all the nuances? And the more I read this original version, the more I realized I hadn't said it all, you know, that there needed to be, this is my new book. I'm not yet familiar with the cover. but you're talking about Who Can Be Born Black. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I knew that everything I needed to say about us was not there. And I added a middle section. That's another thing when you are, for those of you who write as well as those of you who do papers for class and all that, you may have to move a segment from here to there. You may have to come down here and get a sentence and put it in a paragraph up there. All that is called crafting. And that has to happen because you have formed your own notion of what is good work. You're not influenced by anything, but is this what is in my head? Am I really saying it? So when I read this, Who Can Be Born Black, I said, yeah, that's good, but it's not all of it, you know. And I'll read, before I read the original, I'm going to read the section that I added. And you'll see why I needed to put this in here when I'm trying to write a definition of who we are as the national group, a family nation. One more thing. You know that in times of crisis or joy, we come together without anybody ever saying, let's meet down on the corner of wherever. We all appear there. And that's what I'm talking about here. And to come together in a coming togetherness, vibrating with the fires of pure knowing, reeling with power, ringing with the sound above sound, to explode in the majesty of our oneness, our coming together in a coming togetherness. That was what was in my spirit that I knew had to be there if I was writing a poem about who we as African Americans are. So here is the whole thing, including this is the beginning and the section I just read you. Who can be born black and not sing the wonder of it, the joy, the challenge, and to come together in a coming togetherness, vibrating with the fires of pure knowing, reeling with power, ringing with the sound above sound, to explode in the majesty of our oneness, our coming together in a coming togetherness. Who can be born black and not exult?
I love it. Go ahead.
Okay. First,
Unless you want me to take you some more poems to read.
I think I want to say this in the beginning. As I watch my sister, Sister Eleanor Traylor up there, sharing some of her knowledge with you, and I'm thinking, no white university in the country has a professor like Dr. Eleanor Traylor. No, our sister invented flair. She did, yeah. But I would, my concern as I write is, I did that one thing, speak the truth to the people, and one of the young men today said, was that a critique of the Black Arts Movement? Well, I'll tell you, it was a critique of what was happening then, not necessarily the Black Arts Movement. I thought we were pretty cool. But there were brothers, and I have to say brothers because there are almost no sisters out there at that point, who were grabbing the microphones in cities all over the country, and they were at the peak of their power with the microphone in their hand, and they were urging all kinds of things. And there was a brother sitting behind me, a young brother sitting next to me when somebody read, can you kill? Nigga, can you kill? And he said to me, does this mean we should go out now? And I said, no, that's not what the sister meant. She's talking about the image in your head, the standard that someone else has created for you. That's what she's saying, But so there were people misinterpreting some things, and creating some other things. And so when I wrote Speak the Truth to the People, I meant, scream and yell all you want. Just make sure it has integrity. And it's going to leave the brothers and sisters standing when you're through talking, So my concern has been then that we interpret whatever we truly feel is the truth. Now that's going to vary. We're going to have 20 people, saying something different. And when you write the word mother on the board, if you have 40 students in that room, you have 40 definitions of that word mother, all depending on their personal truth. So when I say speak the truth and try to write the truth, it means search your heart, search your spirit, do the research, as Nikki is saying, and make sure that it's as close to a truth as you can come. I'm concerned about children. We have a black publishing company, Just Us, and we don't have many publishing outfits in Afro-America. I'll get it straight after a while. Me and Tiger, but we don't have many. We have Black Classic Press in Baltimore, and they just finished doing my complete and, no, this isn't complete, it's new and selected poetry. Yeah, and there'll be copies of that. If there's anything here, I hope you'll want to see it. And then we have Just Us Publishing comes to family, a black family publishing for years now. They're still out on the front line. They've done some of my children's books, Singing Black. They reissued this, an anniversary issue. It's alternative nursery rhymes. The illustrations are by a departed brother, Ramon Price, who was the mayor in Chicago, the black mayor.
In Chicago.
Yeah, Harold Warren. The brother who did the illustrations is Harold Washington's brother. Both men are now dead. But to tell you the kind of thing that's in this Singing Black. Scooby, 1, 2, singing Scooby-Dooby-Doo, 3, 4, someone's knocking at the door, 5, 6, turn around and hop, 7, 8, till I tell you to stop. 9, 10, now do it again. If you turn too fast or you hop too many times, you have to start all over at the end of the line. Singing Scooby, singing Dooby, singing Scooby-Dooby-Doo. That's a black children's nursery rhyme. The press, Just Us, has also done this book. My concern, in addition to the truth, is with our children, with you, and with people younger than you that you can be the mentors for. And this is a book written for those children, 7 or 8, about child sexual abuse. It talks to the children about child sexual abuse in language they can understand, not so explicit that it's going to scare them, but explicit enough for them to know what we're referring to. And it's entitled, Dear Corinne, Tell Somebody, Love Annie. It's a series of letters between 2 little girls who are friends. One wonders why the other has stopped having anything to do with her. She said, I didn't do nothing to her, Mother. What's the matter with her? So that's another thing. I usually write in idiom because I'm trying to reach the reader where that person lives. If I'm writing for children, I'm trying to write in their language. For instance, this book called I'm Late is about teenage pregnancy. And I wrote it for children from 11 years old, and I understand it's working right on into university psych classes. It's the story of Lenice and Moonlight and Alicia, who didn't have anyone of her own. Alicia was very heavy, so she didn't have anyone of her own. And that's why she hung with Niecy. As long as Niecy was slim and pretty and the boys liked her, Alicia could find somebody. I wrote it in their language, I think. Some little girl read it and looked on the back at the biog and said, well, Miss Evans, you know, if this is you, how come you talking like this? But really, I wasn't writing it for my contemporaries, but I find it works in college. Moonlight, she said, and this is Niecy talking, she's a pretty one. I'm pregnant. Moon had started down the steps, he stopped and turned around, you what? I'm pregnant and you know it's yours, so don't try to say it ain't. Moon stood there, not moving, looking dead at her. Well, say something, she said, the words, I'm pregnant, hanging in the air between them. No, you didn't, he thought. And he knew it should have been something else, but he had no idea what. Moon was 15. Niecy, of course, was 14. Oh, man, he thought, outdone. What am I supposed to do now? Shit, he says. He spat the word out, turned and stomped on down the steps. Moon, Niecy, and Alicia.
How come the arrest of Rosa Parks was so well known? Well, she lived in the projects, for God's sake. And anybody that knows anything about projects, you know that that goes to the projects right away. She was on the bus because she needed to be. She had to be on the bus. Had Coretta Scott King been arrested, and all fairness to Mrs. King, knowing black people as I do, I like us, but we crazy. Black people would have said, no, they will. How come Martin didn't carry her? That's right, there goes your boy. No, it's the truth, you know black people. If that had been Juanita Abernathy, who had been arrested on the bus, somebody said, Ralph should have given her the car. It had to be, oh, come on, we know black people. It had to be somebody that had to be on the bus. And you have to remember that Mrs. Parks' front door abutted E.D. Nixon's back door. When you go to look at where she used to live, you'll see in the practice. That's why everybody knew what was going on. So her no is going to resound. It's going to be the women. We don't meet Martin Luther King Jr. until that evening when he issues the charge to the people. And Martin, and I'm a big fan of Martin, so don't misunderstand, he's a great man. But Martin is going to issue the charge that says, shall we continue? And you can see that on any newsreel. Shall we continue? Well, that question is, continue what? Continue what the women have started. We have to give the women credit because women never get credit for what we do. Well, he was better than that. So it becomes important because what they actually accomplished is going to be accomplished because of these two women. Rosa Parks was 42 years old. She was drop dead gorgeous, and truly she was at the height. Having gone beyond that period, she was at the height of her womanhood. If she had been 32, it might have been different. If she had been 62, it might have been different. But she was right there at that point that everything that she had wanted to do and be in life came together. And she realized, I can do this, that I have an obligation, I have to answer to my God. And it was a wonderful thing. I laugh because when Mrs. Parks died, it was a sad day for America. It was a sad day for the world, and I was very proud that Rosa Parks became the 33rd person in the United States to lay in state in the Capitol. That was very important. And of course, we are all aware of a crazy old bitch named Condoleezza Rice, who, well, she is. And we know that Condoleezza Rice is from Birmingham, Alabama, and we know that she was actually a friend of one of the girls that was blown up. So how is it that she sits up there and carries the water for George Bush is beyond me, but that's neither here, I guess, nor there. But you saw, I just thought that should be mentioned. But you saw when they had Mrs. Parks lying in state in Montgomery, you saw that Condoleezza decided to go down and pay her respects. And you can look closely. I wear glasses, but I had my glasses on. And you look closely. When you see that casket, and you see Condoleezza's going to reach for it to touch it, just look closely, you see the casket moved.
Oh, my God.
It moved. I'm sure Rosa was looking up saying, no, baby, not you. Go, no, not you. No, it's it moved. Because Condoleezza Rice stood against everything. It moved. It moved. Oh, yeah, you got to look real close. You see it. It moved. So I just wanted to share a part of, the history is wonderful. And history is wonderful. And you got to do your own reading, you got to do your own thinking, you got to deal with what people give you. And then you have to ask yourself, and what does that mean? If you would listen to some people, they would tell you black people are like crabs in a barrel. I've heard it all my life. And the thing that makes me immune to that is two things, actually. One is Harriet Tubman. Miss Tubman had on her head $10,000, which today is a little less than $250,000, and freedom. Now, we know that no overseer knew what any black person looked like. They didn't know Harriet Tubman from a hole in the ground. We know the master did not know what his slaves looked like. But we know that every slave on every plantation knew when Miss Tubman was there, because they would say, Moses is here, Moses is here, Moses. So the people who were going to ride the Underground Railroad and the people who were going to help them all knew that she was there. And you can see plays and you can see movies that they have us selling each other out for a pork chop, have us selling each other out for a bottle of beer. But Miss Tubman died of old age on her porch in her home. Nobody turned her in, nobody sold her out. And the other thing that we know, there are other things, but this is the other thing that we know. In the Montgomery bus boycott, when Mrs. Parks said no, and Dr. Robinson got the hand flyers out, we know that Monday morning, December 4th, at 6 a.m. when the buses started to roll, nobody was on the buses. We know because we hear pernicious things. The people said, oh, they were intimidated. Miss Parks is smaller than I am and was not known to hit anybody, so who's beating up whom? That's a lie. The people were sick and tired of all of it, and they decided to stick together. Everybody said, oh, they won't stick together. They might, but maybe today, but not tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow, but not the next day. For 381 days, the black community in Montgomery, Alabama walked. And a couple of good things happened. Not only were they walking for justice, which is important, but their cholesterol went down. It did. It did. And of course, domestic violence went to zero. It shows that we can stick together, and when we do, it becomes a good thing because it helps us with our health, it helps us with our families, it helps us with our community. And you have to sometimes just turn your head because everybody knows a fool. There's not a person there, I don't care how old you are, how young you are. Everybody in this room knows at least one fool.
Exactly.
And that's a fact. And what you have to do is identify that person as a fool.
That's right.
Because this is not a prototype. No, because you talk to young women and say, oh, you know, black men don't like black women. And that's because her boyfriend went out with a white girl or something. You know, forget that.
That's right.
Go get yourself somebody. You cannot extrapolate from one to the other. A people are different from a person. And that's why we want you to be in school, so you know the difference. That what happened to you is not the whole damn story. There's more to it. No, that's the truth. That's the truth. Because you could be one of those unlucky people surrounded by a lot of fools. But then you have to say to yourself, I am surrounded by a lot of fools, so that you can at least understand that they're wrong. If you don't understand what's wrong, you can't understand how to get right. And that's kind of important. I'm a big lover of history because we learn so much. And in learning whatever it is that we learn from history, my book before last is called Quilting the Black-Eyed Pea, and I am just in awe of the bravery of those Africans who made Middle Passage. But nobody ever talks about that. They talk about, yeah, the blacks came here and they cleared the fields and they did this and they planted the cotton and they planted the rice. All in good, I'm not knocking that. But what they actually did, if we think about it, was they brought a great spirit, because these people came with a vicious people across an unforgiving ocean and somehow managed to be sane. And nobody ever said, how come they're sane? I can make you crazy in Southeast.
That's right.
Nobody ever said, how come they're sane? Then they stood on an auction block, naked, where people had oiled their bodies up so that they would look better, where men came and put their fingers in their mouths or any other orifice that they wanted to, where they were sold, and they understood that they were being sold. Everybody said the slaves didn't know what was going to happen. They understood that it was an unpleasant experience that was going to get worse, where they were branded and sent out to some plantation with another fool, with people that they didn't know anything about, and yet they recreated themselves. They are the ones who decided not only will we live, but we will thrive. We will do better. We will find a way. And so when we think about, as we have been, and I'm very disappointed in what is called public intellectual, because they're either not smart or they're just not doing something. I don't know which one it is. But I do know that if we think about the American experience, there's really only one group of people in America who have taken the American promise. The American promise was that you could recreate yourself. You could start again. And the only people who started again were black people. The only people, because the Europeans came with their old prejudices, with their old food, with their old religions, with their old, whatever it is that they had, they brought all of that baggage with them. You and I, those of us who were black, came here and we had to not only change, I told Jesus it would be all right if I changed my name. We had to change our names, we had to change our religion, we had to find a way to talk, we had to find a way to love, we had to find a way to have children knowing that they were going to be sold off, and we had to find a way to remain sane through that. So nobody's going to tell me we're not going to remain sane now. Nobody's going to tell me in 2007 that somehow or another the black community is going to fall short. What I do know is that it's not being interpreted properly, and I would challenge anybody, because I am tired of black kids I'm tired of people telling me they don't want to learn, and I'm tired of them, everybody else. You know, you talk to black kids, don't nobody else want to learn, I want to. No, stop that shit.
That's right.
Turn that around, and it's time to deal with what is actually happening here.
Yes.
And sometimes, you know, we're old women. I speak for myself. I'm an old woman. No, we laugh, you know, and we see the videos, and we say, oh, those girls are disgracing themselves. Those girls are. We have to try to think, what are those girls doing? And if we don't know, we need to ask them. We have to rethink what it is that we think. because the new generation has something else to think. I got to say I'm proud of them because money's a good idea. And I know that people say, oh, you know, it's just about money. Well, money works. It does. You know, you get tired of people saying that. The only people that say that are the people that have it. Money is a good idea because if you're going to be a fool, you may as well be a rich one. No, money works. And there are some things, you know, that you shouldn't do for money. I would recommend that you not. But then nobody's giving me enough money to make me do it. It's hard to say what you won't do for $1 million, let alone 10, let alone 100. Because it's easy for me. It's easy for people my age, you know, like, okay, I would never do that. Well, who's asking us? There's something else going on. And we are not the people on Earth who are falling short. There will be no space travel without understanding middle passage. But there will be no planet without understanding the voice, particularly of the African American, because we are the new people with a new cry, with a new song, with a new possibility. And it is incumbent upon us that we look to the heavens. I'm amazed that black kids are telling me things like, I don't know about space. Are you kidding? You come from a people, and the Sudanese picked out the dog star 1,500 years ago. Are you kidding? It was the Arabs that came up with the zero. Where would we be if we had Roman numerals? Can you imagine multiplying Roman numerals? You come from a people who made math. You come from a people who made science. Aspirin goes back to the Egyptians and probably way beyond that. And somebody said, well, Nikki's just aspirin. That's still the best drug on earth. Everything else is a derivative. How is it that you're not happy about these things? That's what I don't understand. Or, in the words of my dear sister here, who could be born black and not exalt? Yeah.
What?
Since Nikki has brought up money, I want to ask another question of these poets. This is the only time in history that I know anything that poets have made as much money as they do now. I wonder if you all are getting your money for these books. Now, I mentioned earlier that you can't get these anymore easily. They've got to be put back in print. They are really very, very valuable expressions of a sensibility that I was a part of. That's not why they're important, but that the whole world was, the whole world started writing and thinking and behaving differently. And that ethos is in here. Now, the books present, and I know that yours are collected, in the quilting piece, some of these are collected, in combination, some of these collected, and some. I got them, is what I was getting at, from Amazon.com. Do you all get any money? That's all right. And I'm telling you,
First of all, I don't think that you write for money. But I can tell you who, no, you can't. We're poets, so we admit that. I'm not Aretha Franklin, I'm not Queen Latifah.
Right.
And when I mention money, the rappers make money. Right. None of us started this business. I'm gonna eat. And I have a 20-year-old car, but that's really just because I have chosen not to buy a car, but I am gonna buy a car this year. And I am because my car, I don't have any heat, and I'm too old to be driving around with no heat. And I do have a pedigreed dog. So I've chosen how to spend my money. But I didn't write these things, and my books are in print as our memories, and you don't do that for that. You all have another possibility that we didn't have. These books don't turn into movies either. These books don't make songs. I got a Grammy nomination because I did the collected, I read that. But that's not what I am, and that's not why I do it. But no matter what I do, let me be clear. I will always take care of myself, my dog, and when she was alive, my mother. And I always did, and that was important. No, that was my bottom line. Now, I'm never gonna be cold, I'm never gonna starve to death. But that's not why you do it. And I'm saying this because I don't want you paranoid. I don't want you to think, there's some damn poem out there that you can write that all of a sudden you're gonna be rich, because that won't happen. What you do is you go into this for the love of it, and you make sure, because it's a business, you're not foolish, and you make sure that you get what you should get from it, but you make sure that you're not crazy in thinking what you should get. I have a friend who started writing poetry. She was a young woman a long time ago. She was younger than I was. And she used to always want to charge, like a poem would come up, and she was always like, I need to give $50 for this woman. I'm like, how can you, I won't call her name, but it's like, how can you think like that? Give somebody the poem. The rappers and ego tripping has been, sampled on everything. Yeah. I give permission because these kids, maybe they do all right, and if they do, maybe they'll send me something sometime. But these kids, no, you're gonna have a bestseller, send me something for God's sake. I gave it to you for free, but if you're not, it's all right, because the work is out there, and what we want is the work. So I don't want you to be money driven, but I want you to take care of yourself. And I want you to be aware that if you're a writer, you have to write all the time. You just can't say, I just write poetry. You have to go and do book reviews. You have to go and do, I covered plays. I actually covered one murder once, and it made me very, very nervous, because you're there talking to somebody. Do you think, ma'am, that, you killed your husband? I'm thinking, I don't think I should be here. But if you're a writer, you can write. And that's what you should, I'm just what I'm trying to say. That's what you, but if you want to be a fine writer, you're not going to do it. If you want to make money, you can write like Zane writes, and I like Zane, by the way. I think she's a nice young lady. I've had the pleasure of meeting her. She's an enjoyable young woman, and people are erotic, so she does that. If you are young now, well, people screw, but if you're young now, they do. But, look at what Nikki Turner's doing, right? I mean, you're a young person now. She's got that, what they're calling street lit, but street lit will be a course in the university soon, because what Nikki Turner and them are doing is an important part of the literature, and it is just as valid as the dead white men that we've been having to study. We have to study these things, but you can't think that you can write poetry and that's going to do it. You can do rap, you can do spoken word, but poetry's not going to do it. So that becomes like a moot issue. But we're gonna eat, and that's what's important. Yeah. And we're gonna contribute, and that's what's important. And we're another generation. I do, and I mention money because I admire what the younger generation is doing in terms of their business ability. Yeah. And I think that that's important. They are good businessmen. We never went into it to be good business people, and we're not good business people. And that doesn't mean that we're gonna freeze to death. We're not. But we're not going to do what they did. I've taught one student, I've been teaching at Virginia Tech for 20 years, and I've taught one student, Kwame Alexander, who is now in Hollywood and I hope writing movies. Because, and Kwame said, what do you think? I said, Kwame, for God's sake, what you make for the movie that they don't produce is worth it. He's got a kid, he's got a mother and a father, you have to take care of yourself. I didn't like Hollywood because I don't want those people around me. I know that they're not good people. And no, it's like I was invited to do Diana Ross's autobiography, as told to, and I thought, you gotta be kidding. I'm gonna hang out with Diana Ross, are you kidding? I mean, no, she's not a nice person. And just, well, she's not. And just because, she's still around, and just because I like some of her songs doesn't make her a nice person. She has to answer for Flo Ballard. She does. She does. And until she has the nerve to say to all of us, because this is a forgiving community, I'm sorry. Yes, right. She has to do that because they shat on Flo, because Flo could sing. When you see Dreamgirls, they made it all right. I love Dreamgirls, by the way, and I don't know anything that was more, they were robbed. Dreamgirls is the best movie of the year. It is. It's a brilliant movie, and they made I don't know what Diana's bitching about, because they made her way nicer than she actually is. And that's true. I'm not against, I know her daughter's running, so I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I got a child, so y'all can say something mean to him. But the reality is, she's not a nice person, because she let her ambition override her loyalty. And my mother always taught me, you never let a boyfriend get between you and a girlfriend. That's the truth. That's the truth. I just thought I'd mention that.
Exactly. No, I want you to talk. I was just talking about, I wonder if Lucile ever thought that there would be a series 10 years after she wrote this book called Good Times.
She didn't mean it. She didn't mean it like
We don't
that.
stop teaching any book because it's out of print.
No.
And that's what we offer. And here, this is one way that this You know what I mean? I'm not stopped teaching Henry Dumas.
Oh, no, no, yeah, you're right,
Marvelous, creators of fiction
Right.
in the century because the books are out of print. So I'm saying we got to get them back. And thank God you do what you do. Keep publishing them and then incorporate them into collections.
Yeah.
So that we can have. But I just like to have the,
I
the
hear
original thing. I'm so glad
You
I
got
have it. I'm old, but you can get them on Amazon.com.
You can. And when you
And
can't do
I
it.
don't know whether Lucile ever received those. This is just for historical purposes.
Yeah.
Received any residuals out of Norman lived for good time.
Yeah. No, you know what you did.
Copyrighted title.
No, you can't, no.
Okay.
I want to move back to what Nikki's been saying too. Basically, I guess, I'm so mesmerized by my sisters. I'm like you all, but I wonder if those of you in the audience understand the magic that has been in this audience and other audiences that we had earlier in the day. Back to that line, and to come together in a coming togetherness. Do you understand when you're experiencing that spirit, and it's magical and it belongs to all of us because we are who we are? We are family, nation. I hope you feel that as you sit here. And I wonder if you understand the kind of inexplicable things that happen to us because we are a magical people. For instance, do you understand this morning when the sister Joanne Gavin was talking and playing Nikki's tape and playing the tape of her album? And we were in the middle, we were all moving to total praise. And all of a sudden, we were feeling that spirit, and the door opened, there stood Nikki. That was inexplicable. That has to do with our being a magical people, appearing when we are supposed to appear at the right place. There was a moment back during the Black Arts Movement when we were all in the chapel at Clark College down in Atlanta. And a brother was reading his poetry. And he was reading Fire and Brimstone and everything. And we were caught up in the emotion of the moment. And then suddenly the skies opened and the thunder clapped and the lightning flashed through that chapel. It was like we were all part with the elements of what the brother was doing. That was another, the audience just sort of went up because there was such harmony, such sync between us and the poet and the elements and the chapel. You will experience so much of that in your time, where if you are tuned in to your body, your spirit, and what's happening around you, and if you let yourself respond to it, you'll understand this is because I am who I am with who I am with. It's really magical. I had some more stuff, but that was lying on my heart because so much of what we experience has to do with what we cannot document. We can't measure it on a scale. And we just rely on understanding ourselves as a family nation, tuned into something, arriving at the same point, which is why when we see each other, we are supposed to say, hey, not just pass by with our eye going the other direction. But, okay. When I started this, I wanted to talk about the essential black woman, the prototype, the archetype, who we all are, feeling that we as a group have experienced everything, have gone through everything. The men have too, but then we gave birth to the men, so we went through that. And so this is a summation I am a black woman. The music of my, I have to interrupt here because when I used to read this in the 70s, often it would be at a university and your audience would include a lot of white students. And I used to have to say, because it was the song at the moment, when I say humming in the night, I don't mean raindrops keep falling. That's not what the black woman is humming. I'm a black woman. The music of my song, some sweet arpeggio of tears, is written in a minor key, and I can be heard humming in the night, can be heard humming in the night. I saw my mate leap, screaming to the sea, and I, with these hands, cupped the life breath from my issue in the cane brake. I lost Nat's swinging body in a rain of tears and heard my son scream all the way from Anzio for peace he never knew. I learned Da Nang and Pork Chop Hill in anguish. Now my nostrils know the gas, and these trigger-tired fingers seek the softness in my warrior's beard. I'm a black woman, tall as a cypress, strong beyond all definition, still defying place and time and circumstance. Assailed, impervious, indestructible. Look on me and be renewed.